How we doing, guys? Welcome to DT's Daily. Now, on today's show, we're going to take a look at England and in particular, the decision to leave out Ben Chilwell and Mason Mount due to coronavirus guidelines. And the last piece of news involves Arsenal because reports are suggesting that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is a target to replace Alexandre Lacazette.
I represent my fucking self.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to DT's Daily. That's right.
So the first place we're going to start is England, and we're not going to talk about the score lines and everything else. England had already qualified for the last 16 before they even kicked a ball. But what I want to specifically speak about was the decision before the game that was kind of taken out of England's hands about Mason Mount and Ben Chilwell and how they have to now isolate. And this is because they've been in close contact with their Chelsea teammate, Billy Gilmour. Now, Billy Gilmour, for all of you that don't know, has tested positive for coronavirus. Now, at the end of the game, we all saw the images of Chilwell and Mason Mount going up to Billy Gilmour, giving him a hug, little pat on the head. They're teammates. Nothing wrong with it in any way, shape or form. But because they've now been in close proximity to Billy Gilmour and he's tested positive, they now have to isolate up to and beyond Monday. Now, you look at that initially and you think, okay, if those are the guidelines, you've got to understand, etc., etc. Now, they've had tests themselves. They are negative. The issue here is that why are they having to isolate, but there's members of the Scotland squad that do not have to isolate? And in particular, you have players after the game that were going up to Billy Gilmour and congratulating him on his performance and giving him hugs, including the manager. There was a Instagram post which was put up in the Scotland hotel camp and everybody in close proximity to Gilmour, and then he got tested positive and then the post was deleted. But the issue here, like I'm trying to explain, is that why are Mason Mount and Ben Chilwell having to miss out on playing games and isolating when it's not the same for others? What is the difference between those two greeting, Gilmour after the game, giving him a hug and a pat on the head, etc., when the Scotland players were doing the identical thing? And like I said, including the manager, giving him a big hug. Like, really? Surely you've got to look at everybody that's been in close proximity and isolate all of them, or you don't isolate anybody. It can't be one or the other. Honestly, I don't get it. Somebody from Scotland, Gilmour in this, instance, has tested positive, but yet the two players that have to isolate are in a completely different team. Really? Surely the players that were on the pitch during the 90 minutes were as close to him as what Chilwell and Mason Mount were at the end of the game when they're making tackles and they're next to each other in a box. Or, come on, do you know how dumb this sounds? How pathetic it looks? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, really? Come on. You've got two players there that are now going to have to miss out on international matches, isolating, can't train, with their teammates or anything. Because of what reason? Because they greeted their mate at the end of the game. They've had tests as well and they're negative. This is what I can't work out. It's baffling. And I just find it an absolute shambles, to be honest with you. And this is not the blame of England here, because this is something that they are, having to go by with guidelines and everything else. And it's done by, the Public Health England. And it's from their consultation. And it's like, come on. I might be going on about it here, but seriously, can everybody see what I'm seeing and how stupid this looks? Really? You either ban everybody that's been in close contact with him, or you ban nobody. And the only person that has to isolate and unfortunately has to miss matches is Billy Gilmour, because he's the only one that has tested positive. Seriously. Shambolic, man. Shambolic as far as I'm concerned. And it's kind of lucky in a way that, you know, the England game didn't actually mean anything. Now, I know Chilwell in particular probably wouldn't have, you know, been involved throughout this tournament. He hasn't been anyway in that respect, but he's still part of the squad, isn't he? Mason Mount, heavily involved, been playing the first couple of games, you know, would have probably played this one against the Czech Republic. I don't know. Given the fact that England were already through to the last 16, maybe, you know, he would have been taken out the side anyway and rested. His performance weren't that great last time out. But either way, I just think it's a shambles, to be honest. I really do. So that's my thoughts and opinion on it. And you can let me know in the comment section what you think. Now, last piece of news involves Arsenal. And reports are suggesting that Arsenal have identified Dominic Calvert-Lewin as a viable successor and could soon act on their interest in the Everton marksman. And that is according to the Telegraph. The report claims that the 24-year-old is admired by those in North London after successfully leading the Toffees' attacking charge last season. Calvert-Lewin scored 25 goals for club and country in all competitions, with only one of those coming from the penalty spot during England's comfortable win over the Republic of Ireland back in December. He's previously been mentioned in connection with Manchester United, who reportedly considered a move for his services last summer before landing Edison Cavani on a free transfer. Now, one of the subplots to this as well is that if Arsenal are going to go for somebody like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, then Alexandre Lacazette has to go the other way. Not to Everton, but out of the door. So, from what everybody's saying and reports are saying, Lacazette is the one that Arsenal are looking to get a little bit of money for. He hasn't got long, you know, left on his contract, to be honest. It's, you know, whittled right down. So you're not going to get loads, but they want to get some than none. Calvert-Lewin, for me, he offers something very different in the sense that he's got the aerial presence. His hold-up play is good. So similar to Lacazette in that respect. But he does offer what would be a plan B, an alternative, not just on the floor, through balls, channels, etc. An aerial presence. And he was really good at Everton. I felt he faded off towards the latter part of the season, but the initial part, I thought he was really, really good. And he's a player that, yeah, I would most definitely have him at Arsenal. And it seems to be very evident what kind of names are being mentioned involving Arsenal at the moment, and there seems to be a very clear demographic in the players that they're targeting. First of all, the age. A lot of these players are all around the 22, 23, 24, 25 mark, so plenty of years left in them, you know, way before their primes and everything else. And the other part, which seems to be very, very consistent, is that a lot of these players we're being linked with are Premier League proven. Premier League proven. Now that is key, because I think they've looked at situations like Nicola Pepe, for example, how it's taken time to adapt and get used to the Premier League, because it is tough for some players. Not everybody can hit the ground running. And I think Arsenal have identified that and said, we haven't got the time. We haven't got a year's grace where we can give players time and everything else. We need to hit the ground running. So bring in a load of Premier League players, Premier League proven, and then you don't have to worry about, you know, the adapting side of things. And we're looking at a lot of England internationals as well. Calvert-Lewin, there would be no issue with language barrier, understanding the Premier League. Ben White, there would be no issues with the language barrier and understanding the Premier League. You know, so many names that were being mentioned with, even Basuma. You know, I don't know what his English is actually like, but I think he'd have a very good understanding of it, given the time that he's been in this country. And, of course, he plays in the Premier League, so he wouldn't have time to adapt. He knows what, you know, is needed. So all of these names, yes, there's a couple that could come in that would need time, but one or two isn't too bad when you would have 3 or 4 that don't need that time to adapt. Do you know what I mean? So, interesting. Everton would want a lot of money, that's for sure. But yeah, we'll wait and see whether that one is just a rumour or not. So there we go. That is it for today's DT's Daily. As usual, let me know in the comment section what you think about today's topics. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button, smash a like on this video, and I will see you lot soon. I'm out of here.